Hello again. So today I'm going to be talking about the third and fourth day of the MIRAI program. If you haven't already seen my explanation of the MIRAI program, you can check that out up there. And you should also check out my second video about the program where I talked about my first and second days in Japan. On the third and fourth days, we spent time in Hiroshima and Kyoto, which I'll be talking about in this video. So on the evening of the second day, we took the Shinkansen from Shinagawa in Tokyo to Hiroshima. It took about 4 hours, so we didn't have time to have dinner, and we just had a bento box on board the train. What's really amazing to me is that this 4-hour train journey covered about 900 kilometers, so that's about 225 kilometers per hour. We arrived quite late in the evening at about 9 or 10 o'clock, so our activities only really began the next morning. So in the morning, our first stop was Miyajima, which is an island just off Hiroshima. The light was really beautiful, so I'm going to show you some clips of the bus journey there. We then took the ferry from Hiroshima to Miyajima, which took about 10 minutes. When we arrived there, what struck me was that it was just the most scenic place. In fact, I believe that Miyajima has been voted the third most scenic spot in Japan, and it's very easy to see why. Another thing we were all struck by was that there were loads of really cute deer nearby. They were very distracting and kind of delayed us a little bit. And we were told before we got to the island not to feed the animals. It seemed like a pretty easy request, but we soon learned that that was not the case, as I'm about to show. We then went to a site which you'll probably recognize. It was the Vermilion Torii Gate to Itsukushima Shrine. In most photos it appears to be floating on the water, but on this day we were both blessed and cursed by the fact that the tide was quite far out. On the one hand, it meant that we could get up close and personal and take some really cool pictures, but on the other hand we didn't get the magical sight of a temple gate floating on the ocean. We then continued to Itsukushima Shrine, which the gate forms a part of. Itsukushima Shrine is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's very easy to see why. It's stunningly beautiful. Again, like the gate, the shrine itself usually appears to be floating on the water, but because the tide was quite far out, we didn't get that effect. After we'd done a little tour of the shrine, there was some time to wander around Miyajima Island. It was super nice. There was a beautiful pagoda there, which unfortunately I didn't have time to go and check out. After a while on Miyajima, we took the ferry back to Hiroshima mainland. Our next destination was the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. This again is a very iconic site. It's a building that was severely damaged in the blast of the atomic bomb in 1945. Even though it was something I'd seen in loads of textbooks, seeing it in person was very powerful in a way that just couldn't compare, I felt. Explored the Peace Memorial Park, which had a ton of beautiful memorials to various groups that were affected by the atomic bomb. So for me, what was the most powerful one was the Children's Memorial. Then we had a look around the memorial pond and some other statues in the vicinity. Our final activity in Hiroshima was to hear a talk in the Peace Memorial Museum by a hibakusha. Hibakusha is the term that's used for someone who survived the atomic bomb. And this lady was, I believe, 80 years old, and she gave us a really beautiful, moving, articulate talk about the atomic bomb. This was something that I felt very fortunate to be able to do, and I don't think anyone came out of the room feeling the same way they had when they went into that room. It was an extremely emotional and moving talk. Following that, we took the Shinkansen to Kyoto, which took about 2 hours this time. Again, since we arrived quite late in the evening, our activities began the next morning. The first thing we did was check out Kinkakuji Temple. This is another site that I feel like you'll probably recognize because it's one of the most iconic Buddhist temples. It's plated with gold leaf, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What really surprised me about it is I kind of thought that we'd get there and it would just be Kinkakuji and that would be it. But the grounds of the temple are really beautiful. Then we went to Higashi Honganji Temple, one of the biggest temples in Kyoto, and I believe the largest structure in the world made entirely of wood. We were given a tour by some monks of that temple. It was really, really cold that day, and the wood didn't provide much insulation, so we were all freezing. But it was such a beautiful place to go anyway. That afternoon we went for my favourite meal of the entire trip. So in Japan there's this term shojin ryori, and it describes food that's eaten by monks. It's all vegetarian, I believe entirely plant-based, and it was so delicious. There were loads of really creative aspects to it. So for example, they had like imitation sashimi that was made of potato starch, and imitation sukiyaki, which was made of tofu, I think. Our last activity in Kyoto was to see a No theatre. The lady who gave us the tour and the description came from a family that had been very active in No for hundreds of years. We also had a live performance of No theatre. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film that. We were also shown how all of the instruments work and the costumes. It was just a really great experience. Then we took the Shinkansen back to Tokyo. So that was day 3 and 4 of the MIRAI program, where we explored Hiroshima and Kyoto. As you can see, we had an amazing range of experiences, from the historical to the scenic to the spiritual, and I would say these were my favourite 2 days of the trip. So if you enjoyed that, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm always very eager to hear your comments, so please also leave those below. And I'll see you next week with the last 2 days of the MIRAI program. Bye!